Good morning, everyone. From London, we're at the South Bank Centre this morning, where HSBC, one of the largest banks in the world, is going to be having its AGM, its annual general meeting in the South Bank, in the Queen Elizabeth Hall. We're with Money Rebellion today. And Money Rebellion is here to demand that HSBC and indeed all banking and financial service giants like it stop investing in new fossil fuel projects immediately.
What octane is this? Carbon octane. Very old oil. How old is it? Ages very well. 250 million years. After 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it tastes good, but it's coming out of my ears. It's so good. Yeah, coming out of my ears. There's money coming out of my ears. This is natural. My name is Idring.
Would you like some? Would you like a little glass? A wee glass? Have you got any more glasses in there? We've only got 2 or 3 left, you know. There's plenty more oil in the sea.
I'd like to propose a text. Yes.
Maybe somebody else would have a wee glass.
Join me. 3 parts. To financial vanity. To financial vanity. To
Financial vanity. Next.
To profits before sanity.
To profit before sanity.
To profit before humanity.
I believe in climate change. I do. My son goes to a climate school. He whittles on a wee stick. There's no more whittling, oh my God, of our profits. So there. To whittle it.
Whistling!
Whatever it is.
Oh, let's have a wee dance. Come on. There's nothing like a wee dance. Oh, let's go. Oh, now then.
Wow, I need more oil!
We have a very quiet CEO.
Yes.
He's very quiet.
I'm very quiet.
Oh, okay then. That music keeps going on. Come on then. Who wants another wee glass? Oh, there's a lady over there. Go on,
I like it. Wait a minute. I think Hugo's having doubts.
I'm the CEO. I'm Hugo Spagbold, Trust to Buck, and I am the CEO of the British branch of the hedge fund area of HSBC Centre, and I'm here to say that we've made enormous profits over the last year and the last several years from a lot of oil investments, and I was feeling great about it, but somehow I don't completely feel right. Maybe it's the petrol.
Oh no! You're drinking too much. Yes, too much.
Somebody told me that I was developing a conscience.
No!
somebody's holiday. And it's very uncomfortable.
It's all this climate nonsense. Don't worry about it.
What is
Hugo!
What's the content?
Oh, it's at the bottom of
How much does it cost? How much does the conscience cost? That's what I'd like to know.
It's this blue sky thinking.
Blue sky.
Blue sky. I'm feeling like I'm really pushing an envelope, and what's coming into my envelope doesn't feel good.
I think you're not going to get enough money.
Visions of disaster.
No, you don't need to worry about it. No, don't worry about it. You look, I've got an idea. Think about another yacht. Okay? Another yacht? Another yacht. Yes? Another yacht. Do you drink to that? Another yacht?
Another yacht.
Another private jet. Another private jet. Let me say to you, more holidays. Much more holidays. More holidays now.
The moon. You could go to the moon.
You go to the whole
I've been there, it's lovely. I'm worried about the rainforest.
Oh, don't worry about
Think
it.
about the peerage. The peerage. Peerage.
Congratulations!
I'm having a pyramid.
Lord Hugo!
I'm having your hand.
Lord Hugo!
Lord Hugo,
I know
the
it's meant for
peerage.
you.
Marvellous.
I think I just had a peerage.
Just had a peerage.
Feels good.
Its conscience is at the bottom of the sea.
I don't even know what it is anymore.
It's a type of shell. The shell! Oh, dance! One more for the AGM. Cheers. Like trustee. Like, come again.
We can't get enough of this stuff. Cheers, Cheers.
Cheers. Harriet S. What's your name?
Hugo, like all this stuff.
I didn't see you.
I'm the CEO. You know me. I'm a very quiet man.
Yes, just you and
Paradise in my head on the
Oh, what a knees up! What a knees up! I have a feeling it's not too far from the truth either. The fossil fuel companies and their investors are really have celebrating at the moment. They've made huge profits off of the rise in the price of gas and oil with the advent of the war in Ukraine and for various other reasons. Let's see what does HSB actually say. I had a look on their website this week and found that last year's AGM in 2021, under shareholder pressure, HSBC committed to phase out finance of coal power and mining in the EU and the OECD by 2030 and in 2040 in other markets. But I have to say that it claims that coal cannot be phased out quickly because it says over 3 billion people live in countries that still depend on coal for over 2/3 of their power consumption. And it says this reliance is particularly acute in many Asian and developing economies. But it's HSBC has ownership stake in coal companies that planned 73 new coal plants, which just makes a complete mockery of their claim to be supporting the Paris Agreement of 2015. So they are the 13th largest fossil fuel funder in the world. They accept that carbon emissions from fossil fuels comprise 80% of total greenhouse gases, and that coal-fired power stations contribute roughly a fifth to global carbon emissions output. And yet, you know, their investment, I think it was 100. Let me get my lorgnette here. Since the Paris Agreement, it's been $130 billion. They're the major financiers of oil and gas expansion. So, you know, I think it's entirely appropriate that Money Rebellion is raising this profit before humanity today. Yes, indeed.
Well,
We were rolling drunk on petroleum.
Yeah, she's quoting the American writer Kurt Vonnegut. He said, "Dear future generations, please forgive us. We were rolling drunk on petroleum. We really are badly addicted to it."
Yes, please, and aid some reels. Can you do aid some reels?
Sorry? Yeah.
Yeah, you
Who
do.
are you?
Yes. Oh, I'm with Extinction Rebellion UK Live. We've got a rebel from Money Rebellion here to speak with us. What is your motivation for being here today?
I'm doing my bit, as we all should do a bit, to try and help the world to become a cleaner, safer and survivable planet. I've come from Bristol. I've been involved with environmental campaigns for about 35 years. I feel really passionate about this whole aspect of climate change, which is an absolute emergency. We really have to get on board. We all have to do our part. But surprisingly, it's only a few people who actually have that opportunity to feed through down the chain to who are affected, who will actually bring about that change. And that's why I'm here today. HSBC, major funder in oil and fossil fuels, and we really need to get the shareholders on board, stop the greenwashing, and get the board of HSBC to change dramatically and stop funding fossil fuel investments, particularly in Russia, as we all know, which is particularly affected, and we really need to clamp down on that, as well as obviously what's going on in places like Indonesia, the Arctic. We could go on, you know, the North Sea, Mexico is a big place again for natural, liquefied natural gas. So that's why I'm here. I really feel we can all make a difference, but particularly in connection with HSBC, because they're based as a UK bank.
Yeah, and it's not just the fact that there's the Earth is heating up at an unprecedented rate, but what about that effect? The effect on nature, our home.
Well, as we know, as climate change is with us and has been slowly and ramping up to a greater and greater extent, that we actually are aware of what's going on and the effect it's having on food production, the effect it's having on nature. Everything is affected. We all have to really try and get to grips and really try and change the people who are still funding fossil fuels. It's absolutely imperative for nature, not just for human beings, for the whole survival of species on this planet. It's really that, and the science is so overwhelming. We absolutely have to get it and actually do something in that change to that net zero. It's absolutely imperative. So I really hope people can get involved, because it is absolutely a numbers game. We all have, the more people involved, the more we're going to change, and quicker.
Yes, indeed. We need many, many more people to exert pressure, it seems, because they seem... what do you think of their reaction when we come out and protest like this? We never hear from them. They never come and engage with us.
Sorry, are you talking about?
I'm talking about HSBC, and other bad actors, as it were. They never engage with our demands.
Well,
it's an insult, isn't it?
I think they're slowly getting it. It is a process. There are obviously, they're governed to a point by their shareholders, which are institutions and pensions feeding through from grassroots. HSBC, they are slowly changing the way. Awful lot of greenwashing, still investing. It's really got to change. So the pressure has to come from the shareholders, who to a point have been sort of duped by the board. If they only realised what was really going on, I think the shareholders would put a lot more pressure and hopefully even move away from that bank.
Thank you very much for your thoughts. Greatly appreciated. Thanks.
I hope you didn't fall asleep. You know what it is? It's a bit weird,
You need to hold her
HSBC! Stop poaching copper!
Gazprom, Gazprom, da 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 da.
HSBC shareholders
To oil.
Yeah.
Gazprom, Gazprom, da 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 da. We're addicted to oil. Gazprom, Gazprom.
How are you?
You're Claude, yes. Oh, it's just a live stream, so I'm going to make him aware that you used to be a financier. Could you just say something about that?
Yes. Yeah, I've worked for more than 15 years.
Just be making him aware that I'm. Oh, right. Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm live here with Claude, who has a very special visitor at the AGM today. This is your daughter?
Yes, this is my daughter.
A brand new daughter, and it's very poignant to see her here today because 3 weeks old. It makes me think of the future and her future, and you must be rather worried about her future.
Yes, I am rather worried about her future, but we're fighting for it. My experience is 15 years in banking. I know how bad things are. There's no incentive whatsoever for people to do the right thing unless you change the KPIs, unless you change the structures. most of these board members have no experience in sustainability. They'd rather have links with the fossil fuel industry, and not just links, but personal interests. So this needs to change. We're here to give HSBC a message, and if we need to trash their reputation for them to change, well, that's what we'll do.
I was looking on their website this week, and they were saying a lot of the, for instance, coal. You know, the coal-fired power stations in the Far East. The infrastructure is only about 20 years old, so they're fairly new. And it seems to me that they really haven't been on board as early as they could have been to prevent all of this. And now it seems almost too late. Do you think it's too late?
It's never too late, because we can always avoid the worst. So we just have to keep on fighting. And you said the infrastructures are 20 years old. Well, HSBC is also still financing new infrastructure, which are going to be there for the next 30, 40 years. This means new flows, more CO2 in the air, and climate change now we know it kills. So these guys in there shouldn't be celebrating that, but should be, done for financial crimes. As they are killing people, it's a financial crime.
I don't think that's going to be too far off. I think they're just working on the definition of ecocide. I think they should be trembling in their boots, because it will come that they will have to be held accountable. They don't seem to think they are.
Yeah, incredibly, they don't. Yeah, they are accountants and lawyers and business people, and they think it's fine. They don't listen to science. They don't listen to. It doesn't make any sense.
It does make you think, though, when you look at your beautiful daughter there. Do they not have children of their own, and think of their futures?
This is a question I have no answers to, because I don't understand. I think it was Ben van Beurden, who is not HSBC but Shell, who was interviewed and asked about that, and he pretended that, well, his answer was like, I couldn't look at my daughters in the eyes if I wasn't doing the right thing, and he obviously isn't. I mean, Shell destroyed the Niger Delta, they're destroying, if you read about Vaca Muerta, indigenous people have their water completely poisoned, their environment destroyed, and it's shale gas, and it's destroying everything.
It's really shocking, isn't it? Deep sea mining and all of these things, they haven't discounted that they're going to be doing all these very destructive forms of oil and gas extraction. So I just wish your little one, all the hope for the future. Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Claude, for your thoughts. Very much appreciated.
Oh, I was 11 pounds.
In Edinburgh, where I come from even, they take coal out in six. Do you know where I would be from? Coal out in six. Where in Edinburgh do I live? No? What's the matter with you? Come on, ladies and gentlemen. I don't actually perform normally, it's true. Well, I don't know what's happening to me.
They've printed their own money today. I haven't had a really close look at it. Maybe we will in a moment. If you're just joining us, we're actually coming from the South Bank, in the South Bank Centre, live in London at the moment, where the AGM of the HSBC Bank is being held in the Queen Elizabeth Hall. And if you hold on for a bit longer in this live stream, we think something interesting might happen. Can't say exactly what. It was really interesting talking to Claude about her child's prospects for the future. It is truly scary. And yeah, sure. Oh, and there's the banknote. So what have we got? Banking on denial, it says. banking on denial. 2025 is the last chance. 2025, the deadline to prevent a climate catastrophe. The ice caps are melting, seas are rising, act now. I think that should be common currency, don't you? If that was in everybody's hands, it might be a constant reminder to them of what we need to do and what we stand to lose. I think it's an excellent idea. I don't think it's quite so excellent, actually, drinking petrol, but there you are. HSBC hasn't actually excluded policies regarding some of the most damaging and unconventional fossil fuel projects, and let's name some of them. They haven't ruled these out. Drilling in the Arctic and ultra-deep water drilling, which we know has not really begun yet, but just the prospect of destroying ecosystems that deep in the ocean is just incredibly dangerous. Fracking and tar sands extraction. So their exclusion policies on all of these things are either weak or non-existent at the moment. I think surely that needs to change. That is actually all of those methods absolutely smack of desperation, having to squeeze every last drop of oil out of the ground. And also HSBC, there was a report called Bankrolling Extinction by a movement called Portfolio Earth, which found that HSBC was among the top 10 banks with the largest exposure to risking biodiversity. And where they're not being held accountable, and the regular scandals show that when they're left to themselves, some of the world's largest banks like HSBC will game the system. And they don't consider themselves responsible for the biodiversity impacts that they cause. So,
is there anything else free that we can monopolise? Make our own. So I managed to secure an agreement with the British government.
British government.
But as soon as we are ready to trade in air, then all air belongs to us. So everybody must buy our air.
Buy our air. HSBC air.
What's in here, Jonathan?
Air. A hot air balloon.
Oh, plenty of money to be made there.
Let's have a little jump.
We're even richer now.
Jump down, rather. So, what we've got to do is we've got to say to air. HS2 air, or is that HSBC air? A2, who is it? H2O!
H2O BSC.
H2O BSC.
well, this petrol is some heady stuff, isn't it?
I beg your pardon?
The petrol, it's some heady stuff you're drinking there.
It's petrol, it's heady stuff we're drinking. He's not, oh my goodness, he's not at any party, that wee man over there. But petrol is very lovely, it tastes very dark, very nice. And my main thing is to have considerable material uplift in this particular year. Uplift to our money, and also what happens is that if the interest rates go up, it helps back profits. So that's what I'm doing. But I do occasionally sack lots of people and then I reinstate them, depending on whether or not I can get them for cheaper labour. Have we been quiet now? Is it time for a bit of quiet? Okay.
We're watching you.
Yes.
You won't pull the wool over our eyes, HSBC. We're keeping watch on you.
There has been some shareholder concern about HSBC's activities surrounding oil and gas. And despite the fact that they've lobbied the Treasury more than any other company since 2012, the shareholders are really concerned, some of them, about the lobbying that goes on behind the scenes that goes against the Paris Agreement targets because HSBC was actually accused of trying to water down climate change action in the banking sector just prior to COP26, and also to discard a requirement for science-based targets. So, there is pressure there. It'll be interesting to see what the result in the South Bank Centre is today after the AGM. If any initiatives that have been brought forward to make it more possible to fund oil and gas less. We've also got a union action over there. The HSBC hands off my pension lot, so they have a bit of sticky business with more than just gas and oil investment. Hello, would you like to have a word with me about why you're here today, putting pressure on HSBC?
I'm here keeping an eye on HSBC because they are funding climate chaos. They lend so much money. Of all the banks in Europe, the amount of money they've lent between 2016 and 2021 is enormous. And they say vague things about how they look at the climate credentials of people they lend to, but they do nothing. They lend money to all levels of oil and gas expansion. And if this planet has any hope of supporting human life to the end of this century, we need to stop new oil and gas now. HSBC are making that impossible. They are funding the climate crisis.
HSBC, we are watching.
Do you know, I had a look on their website this week, and they're doing a great PR exercise. They're saying, well, you know, we've funded people so much, coal-fired power stations, gas and oil. We just can't turn the lights out on them. We just can't stop like that. So what would you say to that?
I would say that the funding from HSBC is destroying Mozambique. They know what they're doing. They choose to ignore that. They choose to put fine words on their website. They choose to make sentences that look like they mean something, but their actions show those words mean nothing. They are funding chaos. They are funding the end of human life as we know it.
And it's all very well having sustainability officers and things to put things on websites, but I think people would really like to see substantial change that they could see in their everyday lives. Do you think it might come to actually us having to well, it's interesting. There was a study actually done around about the time the Ukraine war started. There are a number of researchers that looked into what we would have to do with less oil in society, and they concluded that there were quite a number of initiatives that people would have to take personally to help this process along, you know, to help us go on a greener road sooner by just denying ourselves some of the things that we've been used to. Now, that kind of takes this, in mentioning that, it kind of takes the responsibility away from HSBC if you say we should all do that. But I think it's probably something we have to address as well. If they do scale back, then it does mean
that the money that they're currently putting into the expansion of existing oil and gas projects and new explorations, if that money could be redirected into alternative energies like developing hydrogen batteries that can store energy produced in wind farms, that can improve lots of ways of storing fuel and creating fuel for heat and other purposes, then the money would be working for the planet, not working to destroy the planet. And that's choices that they can make.
I think the choice they've decided to make is we're just going to do business as usual.
They are going to do business as usual, and they haven't made any meaningful commitments to change that. They haven't made any meaningful commitments to only fund projects that have a sustainability goal. They don't do that.
Yeah. I think the general population actually would like to see people moving towards renewables and other more sustainable forms of energy. I think there's probably a majority of people for that, so why they can't see that, not quite sure.
It's a choice that they make, and they are an international bank. They're funding projects all over the world. Here on the South Bank this morning, it's cold, but there's areas of Africa where oil and gas has devastated local communities, and they get no benefit from that. All the benefit goes to shareholders. They could make a decision to stop at least new projects, stop funding new projects, and use that money to invest in energy from sustainable sources, development.
And if you don't want it,
and new jobs for people who work in oil.
Indeed, that's what they're doing today. They're saying no new oil. Yeah, indeed.
I hope it comes to fruition, and I hope it happens soon.
Me too. Let's all pressure these banks continually to do the right thing, I think. Yes. Thank you very much for your thoughts. Thanks. If you've just joined us, we're at the Queen Elizabeth Hall at the South Bank Centre, where there's an annual general meeting today for HSBC, one of the largest banks in the world. Apparently, this is annual general meeting season, so I shouldn't be surprised if there were quite a few more of these disruptive actions outside.
No more oil and gas, the damage is clear to see. The future is obvious, greener energy. No more oil and gas, the damage is clear to see. The future is obvious, greener energy.
I noticed why you were singing about the Russian oil company.
Oh, you talk to them, lassie. It has nothing to do with me.
Could you tell me a bit? I don't really understand why you were talking about Russian oil. What's that got to do with HSBC?
Wow, they invest in Russian oil and in gas. Gazprom, about the 4 major gas producers in Russia have investments from HSBC. It's disgraceful.
Disgraceful. So what does that mean? Does that mean that HSBC are funding anything that's going on at the moment?
Yes, they are.
Go back.
They are, and they still are. Even though what's been going on in Ukraine for the last 2 months, you still have that investment in from HSBC. It really has to stop. Do the eyes have it? The eyes have it. Motion has been passed. Now we're hoping that HSBC will respond by divesting away Russian fossil fuels like Gazprom.
Divest. What was that?
Divest.
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 No. Invest. Divest. Money talks.
I've a divest. Who's divest?
I'm interested in considerable uplift. And that does help the profits as interests go up. Bank profits also go up, as you'd expect. Cheers to that. Cheers. Even if you do not have a wee dram, just say cheers. 1, 2, 3, cheers! 1, 2, 3, cheers! And one more flip. 1, 2, 3, cheers!
Yes, I am rather worried about our future, but we're fighting for it. My experience is 15 years in banking. I know how bad things are. there's no incentive whatsoever for people to do the right thing unless you change the KPIs, unless you change structures. Most of these board members have no experience in sustainability. They'd rather have links with the fossil fuel industry, and not just links, but personal interests. So this needs to change. We're here to give HSBC a message, and if we need to trash their reputation for them to change, well, that's what we'll do.
Would you like to talk to me on the live stream? Not really. Okay. Would you like to talk to me on the live stream?
Yeah, sure.
You would, okay. Yes, yeah, we've got another rebel here holding a banner. Invest in renewables, get your money out of fossil fuels. Did you enjoy your petrol?
It was wonderful.
Oh, yes.
So delicious. So profitable.
So profitable. What is your motivation for being here at the South Bank Centre today?
Because there's a climate crisis, and what is funding the climate crisis, what's changing it, is money. And unless the money changes and gets out of fossil fuels fast, it's a real problem. And HSBC is still investing in new oil and gas. And the IEA says, I mean, of all people, the IEA, you know, an organization supporting the fossil fuel industry, has said very clearly that we've got to stop all new oil.
I should say that's the International Energy Agency. Yeah.
The International Energy Agency was set up in the 1970s after the oil crisis to defend the interests of the oil industry.
Good grief, that was a long time ago, and I remember that in the 70s, queuing up for petrol stations, and we haven't learned since then, have we?
There was so much energy, there's so much sort of initiatives and innovation happening in the 1970s. I'm an architect, and I was installing I could persuade clients to install big solar panels and heat pumps in the 1970s. And then it just got lost. As oil became cheaper, all that initiative got lost. We lost 50 years.
And do you believe it was also the companies trying to not tell the truth, trying to keep the truth from people as well? There seems to be a belief there was a concerted effort not to.
Well, companies like Exxon commissioned reports into climate change in the 1970s. They've known, and they sat on it. BP, was it 20 years ago, changed their logo to a sunflower and called themselves Beyond Petroleum. They knew where the future was, and yet they still want to dig for more oil and go into the Arctic and have deals with Russia.
And HSBC is funding a lot of these major oil and gas companies, aren't they?
They are. And that is the key thing, is that without funding, without insurance, these oil companies can't operate. So money is absolutely key. And it's so daft of HSBC because the future is in renewables. Everyone can see that. And they just need to switch 100% to renewables. The renewables need investment. There are hundreds of wind turbine farms that have permission and need the funding. That's where the money needs to go.
Yes. We really need some vision, don't we? They seem to be stuck in the past for sure.
It's curious because the vision is there. Everyone knows about it. It's blindingly obvious. And yet they're stuck in looking a backwards mentality. And it's incomprehensible.
Yeah, it's really mind-boggling to the average person, isn't it? And some people don't even want to think about it at all, but I'm really pleased that you came out today and they're putting pressure on.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this will continue. I was just saying on the live stream that this is the AGM season, so
yes.
And people are very much aware. Shareholders are. Do you think shareholders are becoming more aware of their responsibilities?
They are. I mean, it started in terms of looking at the remuneration of the CEOs, and then it's now into things like this. And shareholder power is important. That's what persuades the board, is the shareholder power. So the more we can get the message across. And money is critical to everything, to the change that's needed.
Indeed. Thank you very much for your thoughts today.
Great.
Thanks.
Okay.
Oh, here we are.
So we're at the South Bank Centre, and the AGM is taking place at this very moment in the Queen Elizabeth Hall. Stay tuned, because I think there might be something happening that we could show you. I think we've got an interview to show you with one of the rebels that we did earlier when they were preparing for the action. We're beneath the South Bank Centre this morning. There's a skateboard park here in full swing. And we've got a rebel here who's going to be taking part in the action today. I wonder if you can just tell me what your motivation is for being here today for the HSBC AGM.
Yes, in my old life, I was an advertising producer, and I was working with the advertising agency that has the HSBC account. And back in those days, I was completely unaware of their investments in the oil industry, and so I wanted to be part of the singing flash mob today, which is an amusing way to get across what is a really important message to shareholders and customers about what HSBC are doing, investing in the fossil fuel industry. I mean, it's something like...
My duty is to ensure the business is properly conducted and that order is maintained. I must ask you, therefore, to stop acting in this manner. Your behaviour continues to disrupt the order of the meeting. I must ask you once again to desist immediately and to resume your seat or to leave the hall. If you persist, I will have no alternative but to get you escorted from the meeting. It appears you want to disrupt this meeting, and I'm not able to let this continue. If you continue, I will ask the stewards on duty to escort you from the meeting.
Okay, we're outside of the Queen Elizabeth Hall. There seems to be some disruption taking place inside. We have a bunch of singers from Money Rebellion singing ABBA's Money, Money, Money with their own special lyrics. It's brought the AGM to a halt, which had only just begun. And he's, I believe it's the CEO, has actually asked people to stop singing or he's going to bring the stewards in. So they're just going to get their message across, I believe, and they might be with out with us shortly, but that was it was wonderful. It was very harmonic, and I hope it really brought home this message about stopping investment in oil and gas immediately and switching to renewables. This is what we need.
Would you like me to say why I'm here today?
I would like you to stay. Yes, I would like you to say why you're here today.
Right. I'm here today because I'm deeply concerned that HSBC are funding Russian aggression. HSBC holds over 16 million shares in Gazprom and nearly 1 million shares in Rosneft. As of the Russian state is the biggest shareholder in these two huge oil companies, this means that HSBC are now effectively funding the invasion of the Ukraine. And also they are trashing our planet despite committing to the Paris Agreement on climate change. HSBC invests nearly 18 billion in oil, gas and coal in 2021 alone. And they remain the major bankers in all leading oil producers.
If they put all of your money in solar, wind and wave. Money, 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 oh, it's so scummy in HSBC's world. Money, 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 oh, it's so dirty in HSBC's world. All the lies we could say if they put all of your money in solar, wind and wave. Money, 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 oh, it's so scummy in HSBC's world. Money, 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 it's so dirty in HSBC's world. All the lies we could say if they put all of their money in solar, wind and wave.
It's so scummy in HSBC's world.
Please can I ask you not to
Money, money, money. It's so scummy in HSBC's world. Money, money, money. It's so scummy in HSBC's world.
Shareholders are being denied this opportunity. As chairman of this meeting, my duty is to ensure the business is properly conducted and that order is maintained. I must ask you
Money, money, wahoo, it's so scummy in HSBC's world. Money, crazy money, it's so dirty in HSBC's world. All the lies we could say if they put all of your money in solar, wind and wave. Money, 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 it's so scummy in HSBC's world. Money, HSBC's world. HSBC's world. Money, dirty money, it's so dirty in HSBC's world. All the lies we could say if you put all of your money in solar, wind and wave. HSBC's world. Money, greedy money, it's so dirty in HSBC's world. If you put all of your money in solar, wind and wave. Money, 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 it's so scummy, scummy in HSBC's world. Money, it's so dirty in HSBC's world. All the lies we could say if you put all of your money in solar, wind and wave. Money, 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 it's so scummy in HSBC's world. Money, greedy money, it's so dirty in HSBC's world. All the lies we could say if you put all of your money in solar, wind and wave.
Well, you look quite the shareholders. How did it feel? These are two of the singers that were in the hall that caused the disruption. How did it feel to actually be putting your thoughts to the head of such a large company? One doesn't normally get to do that in person. You might write a letter or something and never get a reply. So how did that feel?
It felt really powerful, actually, because I am somebody who's signed a lot of petitions and written a lot of letters, and you just wonder if you're doing any good at all. So to be here in person and stand up and make my voice heard was really powerful.
Yeah, it was very empowering to see the reaction from them, that they were flustered by it, and to see that all of the shareholders could see us there. It was good.
And there were some shareholders who were videoing us and clapping, and so we did get noticed, and there was some positive response from the shareholders, which is also really good.
I thought there might be because, as some people might know, the shareholders, there may be many of them, but not many, very often turn up to these AGMs. So the people who were there were possibly the ones who really did care that some changes were made?
Perhaps, and yes, and it will also reach everybody who's watching remotely, also very important.
And what is the thing that drives you about climate change? The reason you're in, presumably with Money Rebellion. Yeah. So what is your main motivation there?
The banks are so important in pushing climate change, because without them financing all the new, we really need to stop investing in new fossil fuels. And even the International Energy Agency last year said we need to stop investing in new fossil fuels. But still, the banks carry on, and they carry on just making profits while they can. And I think we just need to make all their investors and their shareholders aware of what they're doing, that they're profiting on the climate crisis, on people, our futures.
Yes, and they've been exploiting people in the global south for absolute decades and ruining their life and livelihoods down there. They don't seem to have any shame, do they?
No, and HSBC in particular is a big investor in Russian oil and gas, which is going to make the situation even worse. HSBC has something like 16 million shares in Gazprom, as well as other major oil and gas companies. And this has just gone on long enough. We've had 26 COPs. We've known about this for more than 50 years, and emissions are still rising. We've got to stop.
Indeed. And hopefully it will. Thank you very much for your thoughts. Very much appreciated. Thanks.
HSBC Bank, I'm a very high-ranking banker, the highest bank in France. And if you want to borrow some dirty cash from me, don't think about tomorrow, just spend it happily. No matter that it's crazy, no matter that it's cruel, there's plenty more where this came from, cause rates on fossil fuel. You can trust me, I'm a banker, with a bank that you can trust, to ignore the moral problem, cause frankly we're not fussed. And if it makes you worry, cause you can smell a sting, well, you better not smell our money, cause it might make you think. When half the world is tired of heat and half is under the sea, here's we the right for what's left is going to be for me. Brilliant. Well done. Yeah, there isn't. Oh, I like this.
Yeah.
Currently again.
Yeah, that was amazing earlier as well. Not really anyone was there.
So Tom.
Very high spirits at the South Bank Centre here today. Very successful action to put people's voices, the voice of the people, to the voices of power about the climate crisis.
That's great.
I believe we're watching just a short clip of something which happened earlier in the Queen Elizabeth Hall. If you've just joined us, we're on the South Bank Centre this morning, and some activists from Money Rebellion stood up in the annual general meeting, just as the head of the company was beginning to speak and saying money, money, money with their own special lyrics, which you can probably hear now, or a bit earlier there was a good clip of them singing as well. I think they're heading out of the hall now. They were allowed to do it for a certain amount of time. And thankfully there weren't any arrests. But there was barely tolerance, I have to say, which is a shame really, because although it was unexpected, I think really it shouldn't have been unexpected. People are getting very, very anxious and upset about the lack of interaction with from the financiers who finance the fossil fuel industry, ignoring our pleas. It's time they listen, and it's also time we got a response from them. These men and women in suits in their ivory towers, they have nothing to say to us, it seems, which is very disrespectful to the majority of the populace who are very worried indeed about climate change. And countless polls have shown that people, just recent polls have shown that the majority of people buy into the problem and they want to see change. And one of the polls just a few days ago showed that as a result of some of our actions and the actions of other activists, climate activists, that the numbers of people wishing to take part in these sorts of actions are increasing. So when you think of oil and when I think of oil and gas these days, I think of these poor young people just starting their lives out, students who are taking part in the JSO, Just Stop Oil protests. Why should they have to do this? Have these financiers ever thought, why? Why? I'm sure their children are well set up. Why should they have to fight for their futures? The people in charge are of the generation that actually has helped to destroy the world that we love. And it's carry on going down a very destructive path. Do they not have children of their own who are going to need a future?
To be morbid all of a sudden, but it kind of is racist. Which not to assume anything about anyone. Like, some people are maliciously racist, and that's not.
Hello. I've been told that you would like to have a chat, even though. All right.
It was fascinating what you said about what was going on inside the meeting.
Oh, you'd like to tell us about what went on?
On the screen, it was incredible greenwash. I mean, sort of lulling music, you know, sort of make you feel really happy and contented. And they claimed, you know, to be working for business and for the planet, you know. And they said we're guiding people towards net zero. And there was all this lulling music and these lovely pictures of a green world, you know. And the people smiling all over their faces, you know, making it feel like this is where you want to be, you know.
Do you know, I actually believe they think that is true, what they're saying, but I don't think they appreciate the scale of change that's needed. You can't just do these things in baby steps anymore, don't you agree?
I don't know, I'm currently investing in 70-something coal projects in Asia and Africa, so I can't see how they can really think that's on the way to net zero.
And are you part of Money Rebellion?
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. And can you tell me a little bit about Money Rebellion, what they do? Because they've done other actions apart from this one. Are they just concentrating on fossil fuels at the moment? Finance of fossil fuels?
Yes, and banking, the banks that are backing up, like Barclays. We've been putting stickers on Barclays a lot. Because they're the worst one in Europe. Yeah.
I think Barclays is having an AGM next week.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So
yeah,
it's time to take stock, isn't it? So have you got anything else you'd like to tell us?
No, I think it was that was very sort of that greenwash was so blatant, really. I thought, yeah, you know, just lulling you into this world of everything's absolutely fine to be with HSBC. You know, you do your business and you save the planet at the same time, miraculously. You know.
I see your point of view, because to an activist that is actually quite painful to listen to, because when you're an activist, you're kind of at the sharp end of facts, aren't you? At facts.
Yeah.
You know, we do a lot of research and we make sure that we're on solid ground when we criticize these people, and you do really discover some very ugly things. And so it becomes very personal, don't you think, when people are greenwashing like that?
Yes. It makes my blood boil, actually, to see that. When, you know, to see the two things going on at once. Yeah.
Well, maybe if we keep going into AGMs and show them how passionately we feel against these things, they will have a change of heart. They seem to be doing it in increments, but we need a tidal wave of change, don't we?
Need what?
A tidal wave of change.
Yeah. And the chairman carried on talking while we were singing at the beginning. He didn't stop. Yeah. I don't know when he did stop or whether he did or not before we left, but because we got louder.
Yes. Oh, yes.
As we sort of gathered more at the doorway, you know.
Yeah. Lovely. Well, thank you for taking part in the action today and for your thoughts. Great. Thank you.
Just here, everyone.
So everyone is gathering around, possibly for a family photo. I'm not sure. It seems like that. I can definitely understand the feeling of uplift after an action like this, of actually being able to make voices heard. It's quite another type of action from the ones that Extinction Rebellion and their related rebellions carry out on the streets with not a single drum in sight today. And yet I felt it was just as powerful.
What's your name? I meant to ask you. Her name?
Okay, so
One, two, three. Money, money, money. It's us coming in HSBC's world. Money, money, money. It's so dirty in HSBC's world. All the lives we could save if you put all of your money in solar, wind and wave. Money, money, money. This is coming in HSBC's world. Money, money, money. It's so dirty in HSBC's world. All the lives it could save if they put all of their money in solar, wind and wave. Money, money, money. It's so scummy in HSBC's world. Money, money, money. It's so dirty in HSBC's world. All the lives they could save if they put all of your money in solar, wind and wave.
hey, all the lives we could save if we put the money in solar, wind and wave.
Well done, Joe.
Did you get one of these as a
Okay, so it's near the end now, but if you just joined us, unfortunately, you'll have to rewind and see what happened. Also, there's going to be a little clip at the end of our program here to show you what actually happened inside the Queen Elizabeth Hall today on the South Bank Centre, an action carried out by Money Rebellion to make the financiers more aware of we're watching them, and we're expecting them to stop investing in gas and oil and coal now, immediately, and putting all that money into lives that we can save, into renewables and other less harmful methods. So I think we're going to bring this live stream to a close. I'd like to thank you very, very much for joining us today. Please do share this if you've thought it was as powerful an action as I did. We're on all the social media platforms. And you can follow Money Rebellion. They've got their own accounts as well. And there'll be a lot more to come in the AGM season, highlighting the inadequacies of the bank in dealing with the climate and ecological emergency crisis. It's very cold here on the South Bank. I think my teeth are chattering. So yeah, it's been lovely for you to be with us, and thanks again for watching.
It's so scummy in HSBC's world.
Please can I ask you not to
Money, money, money. It's so scummy in HSBC's world. Money, money, money. It's so scummy in HSBC's world.
Fossil fuel industry. I mean, it's something like...
My duty is to ensure the business is properly conducted and that order is maintained. I must ask you, therefore, to stop acting in this manner. Your behaviour continues to disrupt the order of the meeting. I must ask you once again to desist immediately and to resume your seat or to leave the hall. If you persist, I will have no alternative but to get you escorted from the meeting. It appears you want to disrupt this meeting, and I'm not able to let this continue.
The business practices and the industrial processes we've chosen to employ over the past 100 years are now putting our climate at risk. Because of their market power, banks and bankers are a crucial part of the way we need to change the system, because otherwise they are definitely the problem. Having worked in the industry for over 20 years myself, I can tell you that there are many bankers who would like to be part of a positive change. We need to change behavior. We can do so because a healthy, sustainable planet is actually in our economic, political, and social interests. We are in a crucial time in history, and we absolutely must pool together and make a difference. Come join us.
I did national service. I was 18. I was lucky enough to be commissioned into the 10th Gurkhas on operations in Malaya, in the middle of the most wild jungle area. Well, you had to put your money somewhere. It wasn't a lot of money. It was, I think, 15 shillings a day. So I opened an account in Johor with the Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank. When I realized that HSBC was one of the biggest investors in fossil fuel extraction in the world, that was very shocking. The fossil fuel extraction process have had an appalling effect on the ice caps. Scientists who watch these things carefully are shocked to find the speed with which these ice caps are now melting. And so I wrote to HSBC to reconsider their investment policies. Had no acknowledgement, let alone a reply. So I took out at cost half a page advertisement in Bristol's newspaper, which was an open letter to HSBC. But again, nothing. When I realized that, in fact, none of this was having any impact at all, I was very cross. I almost immediately started to take steps to withdraw my account. It's not difficult to do your research, find out banks which have green and forward-looking policies on their investment. Found that, in fact, the process was extremely straightforward. I've got 13 grandchildren. I know that I would not really be able to look them in the eye, because if I allow this to continue, then I'm paying for further destruction of the planet. As soon as they realize that their customers are leaving in droves, at that point, they will reverse their policies.